Hello everyone, it's Vike here, and today, of course, I'll be showcasing my BT17 red hybrid list. And I really do like a lot of the new support just because it adds a lot of flexibility to the deck, along with, again, giving it a pretty decent lineup of just rookies, along with the fact that you can easily warp into your Ancient Greymon and do a ton of damage like that. And of course, I'll be showcasing this on DCGO. It's a free application made by Huang's team. So, of course, if you want to check it out, just go to his channel and find your way there. And with that, let's just get straight into the deck list. And if you guys like the content, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And of course, with the trainings, I run 4 BT14 Goemon and 1 BT8 Goemon. Honestly, I only really put Goemon here to kind of test it to see if it was fine, because sometimes you do want to swing with, say, your Warpig Uni and be able to get a draw like that. But again, I still think that maybe something like Yokomon could be a little bit better. But again, this is another option to try out. And the BT14 Goemon is still really good for the deck just because, again, you could swing with, say, just other random rookies and still get a draw. And again, this is the one you really want to see most of the time. Now we start off with the rookies, and in this case it's mostly a Flamemon lineup. First, with the BT7 one, I usually like to keep this one in the back just because of the ondulation, since the on-play, while not the greatest, I really do think it makes up for that alone, just because you do get the free player to Korea, which is really nice. But again, I can imagine the on play still being decent because it still look at top 4 to either grab to Korea or a hybrid. The only downside is that it doesn't grab your ancients, but again, I usually use it for the inherit alone. And then we have the BT12 Flamemon, and of course this is still really good because you trash a hybrid to draw 2, and obviously since you do want the warp to Korea, and in my case I do want the Emperor Greymon, and I still think that's really good just because I can feel for that, and it's a really good draw card. And I can imagine the 2k TP can really come in helpful sometimes, along with the fact that, again, it's a really nice pair with the Goemon as well. And then I run 4 of the BT7 Flamemon as well. Again, just another look at top 3, and then just add a card with hybrid and a Tamer with Heron Fact, which is basically all your Takuyas, and the ondulation is the same thing as this Flamemon, which is still really good. In this case, I went 3 of the BT16 Yugomon just for the additional surge, and that's pretty much it. Now let's move on to the champions, and first let's start off with the BT12 Born Greymon. This one is still really good just because, again, you get plus 2k when Digivolving, so this pairs really well with the Takuyas because normally you just meet the 10k threshold, so that way you can get any of their effects, and I still really like the one for that. Then we won 4 of the new Boeing Greymon, and again, this one's still really solid because it has raid, and if you pair up with the piercing Takuya, that means you can basically raid and go into your next form and still do damage. And overall, I just really like this one, regardless of the situation, just because, again, going into your next stage for basically nothing, if it's this one or your ultimates for like 2-1 or even free, it's still really fantastic because, again, if you could pair it up with the BT7 Aldermon, so again, a lot of really good stuff with this one. And for this one, pretty much just for the Wolf, which is still really fantastic, along with 2 of the promo Agudimon, just for if you want to build something in the back, you could swing with this and swing with your Ancient Greymon for basically 2 checks and still get a lot of damage out like that. Now let's go over the level 5s, and in this case, I like to run 2 of the BT4 Aldermon and 3 of the BT7 Aldermon. This one, of course, I mostly just like to pair up with this Boeing Greymon because it's a 2-cost Evo, but overall it's still fine enough, I think, just because, again, it's 2 checks along with the fact that it can get really big because it gets plus 4k. And of course, if you pair this up with any of your Tamers, mostly the BT17 Takuya and the BT7 Takuya, just get piercing and the extra damage, it's just really good. Only downside is that it doesn't have an inherit, but it is what it is. And of course, this Aldermon's still really fantastic. A 1-cost Evo, if you have a Tamer underneath, is still really good, along with the inherit just being absolutely insane, just to not check options, and it can help out in a lot of cases. And since, again, I do want to warp to Korea and Emperor Greymon, this just really helps with that, because that way if I do warp into my Emperor Greymon, obviously that one's not checking for any options, and again, that's just a fantastic inherit overall. Now for my megas, and I just run 4 of the new Ancient Greymon along with 2 of the BT12 Emperor Greymon. This one is still really fantastic, and while it doesn't do as much as, say, the Ancient Garurumon, The fact that again you can basically delete anything since the TP would be pretty massive is still really good, and the on deletion is still fantastic. Pretty much the same thing as Digimon, be able to turn a Tamo or hybrid, and then if you play a Tamo, it's just really good and it helps you set up your Takuyas and whatnot. And then the +2 checks is still really fantastic, and again if you pair it up with any of your Takuyas, just profit all around. And this one is also pretty similar where you get to delete a 6 scale less, but again if you have a red Tamo, delete basically anything that's equal less DP, which in a lot of cases is pretty much anything, just because if you again use a lot of your DP plus stuff, like basically any of your level 4s except for this one, but you know, it is what it is. You're not really going to use Emperor with this one, but still again overall fantastic card, and the on deletion to play a Takuya still is really good. It's kind of a weaker version of the ancient Greymon effect, but again this was made in BT12, but still a really good card and still can do a lot of damage. Now with my Tamos, of course it's an all Takuya lineup, and I really want to see full of my memory cell, just because again it's the only memory cell in the deck, and I think this is just really solid because it helps you extend plays with the +2 memory, and you're gonna need it almost all the time. The Warp Takuya is only at 3 in this case, just because again I don't want as much Emperor Greymons, but I still think it's really good because again getting extra checks on your guys is still really fantastic. And only 2 of the new Takuya. Honestly, you could always change the ratios around, like maybe put this one at less if you don't really want as much Emperor Greymons, but again the fact that it gains you memory if your opponent has a Digimon, really easy to meet, and the piercing can come up a lot. So again, if you want to change around like some ratios of your Takuyas to put more of this one, go ahead, but right now I only really want to add 2. Now let's just move on to the options. In this case I was running 1 Crimson Blaze, pretty much just to deal with just a bunch of small buys, because the deck can only really kill one thing at a time, so this can help just clear up boards. And 1 of the ancient Guardian Deity option, and again this one could be one at more if you want to focus more on Ancient Greymon, but still this is a fantastic card for basically 2 costs, being able to grab back a hybrid 10 warrior from your trash, and then you can play it either a Tamo or a 10 warrior, so you can again pretty much play your Ancient Greymon for 2, and again just really good card overall. And 2 Atomic Infernos, since sometimes you do just want to swing with your level 4s, get some extra damage, and when this Digimon's block gain 3 is just really good, especially if you pair it up with this one. Say it makes it really tricky for your opponent if they want to block. Most likely they'll not, especially if you have this one, because again you gain a 3 memory and still peels, so again it can really put some pressure on your opponent. Now let's move on to some recommended cards, and of course you have the BT11 Yokomon as a draw card, because you will be running Red Tamos and you do have an extra Takuya to run, so this could see a lot more use. And the BT12 Digimon is also still really nice, because again you do want stuff that's like DP related for your deletion, so obviously it's really nice. And then you have the BT6 Flamemon and BT4 Flamemon. You don't really want to stray away from your hybrid rookies as much, so I think these ones are the best. And obviously if you want to just run Floodgates you can, but back to the Flamemons, of course the BT4 one is still nice because you are able to grab 2 targets, and the only downside is the fact that it doesn't have inherit, so obviously you could just replace it with the BT7 if you didn't really like that all that much. But again, the BT7 is still useful, but okay, just do whatever you want. I think this is still a solid rookie overall. And the BT6 one, of course, it gives inherit piercing, so obviously if you still want to run say an Ancient Greymon focus build, this one can come in handy because you can have this in your stack and still get piercing no matter if it's on the Takuya or if it's on a Flamemon. Moving on to some level 4s, and you could still run the BT7 Bullying Greymon, because it does have the ability to kill 4k or less, and of course the Digimon can help that, and it's a 1 cost of your level 4, so you can use it to get a little bit stronger with your new Aguni, new Bullying Grey and whatnot, and just trigger any inherits that you want, and it's still a fine enough card. And of course we also have the BT12 Agunimon, which is still nice no matter if it's using it as a inherit or if it's just on the main body. You still get free value because you either get to play a Flamemon or you get to play a Takuya, which is still really nice. Moving on to the ultimates, and I think the new Alda is actually pretty decent because you're able to either delete a 6k, and again with the Digimon that's up to 7, and if you have more obviously the better, but you're also able to have the same inherit as BT7 Alda, which is just fantastic. And again, you could just use this in replacement for the BT41 and still get, the ADP effect, which is again still really amazing. We also have Digimon Ace from BT15, and I think it's solid enough because you're able to free play a red tamer, which of course you do, and all of them, all 4 costs are lower, and you are also able to delete a blocker, which I can imagine can come up against on deck, like for example Goa, or just random decks like Magna if they're unprotected and stuff. So this can be kind of nice once in a while. Moving on to the megas, you could also still run the original Ancient Greymon, and while the on deletion isn't as good, I think the fact that it gains extra security damage for each hybrid you have is still pretty good, because you're able to kind of stack your hybrids in a way to make sure you can clear out security, so that's really good. And of course this could also pair up really nice with Blitz Omni, but I don't really think you need it, since in a lot of cases I imagine you would just have another hybrid, another 2 courier to kind of do that, but still a nice option. You also do have the original Emperor Greymon, and I only really like this as like a 1-of when I used to play Red Hybrid for a bit, mainly just because you're able to combo it with your Warp to Courier to kind of like go for game like that, or of course if you just swing with a bunch of other stuff and you just have your level 5 sitting there, you could just EVO on this for normal and still be able to blitz. And I think that your tone is still really solid because it makes him think, do I want to block and give him a bunch of memory and stuff like that. So again, solid enough call, I think, as a 1-of. We also still have Digimon Ace, and still a really solid Ace Digimon, and you could just again sit on your level 5s and kind of have them swing and be unexpected with this. So if you want to run it, go ahead. I think it might be a fine enough option. And then we also have Gallimon Crimson mode. Another similar reason to running Valkyrie on Ace. It's just a sudden surprise factor, along with the fact that you can delete basically almost anything, because there's not a lot of stuff that can reach 15k on your turn other than like stuff like Magna and whatnot. And if it does live somehow, you could use the one decking to trash security, which is really effective. Now moving on to some options, you could also run Pyro Dragons, which it's not the greatest, but I think the fact that again can delete a small body along with kind of just attack a player, I think can be kind of nice, because that way you could just delete, say, a small blocker and then swing with this, and then boom, you have game. Of course, you could also run other stuff like when memory boost and whatnot, but this is still very solid for another removal. Then we also have Lightning Joust. I think this one is kind of nice because of the fact that it also works with your Ancient Greymon, because Atomic Funnel only hits hybrids, so this could be kind of nice to get extra damage if your opponent starts chipping you early. And of course, we also have Gravity Crush, which is still really fine because you could use this to basically go for game, and again, it's always just a really solid card to consider if you're playing Red Hybrid. And that pretty much is the deck list, and I kind of want to hear you guys' thoughts down below. I also really do like how Red Hybrid can be really flexible now with how you want to build it, if you want to lean more with the Ancient Digimon, or if you just want to mix and match the BT12 stuff along with just a lot of the older support as well. And again, I think just the hybrid decks are really fun in general, so just give them a shot. And again, if you guys like my content, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, so you can stay tuned to my future videos. Again, this has been Vike. Thank you guys for watching, and see you guys later.